Land Supply Task Force Chairman says the government should not selectively implement proposed land options. Thousands join a New Year's Day rally to voice a multitude of concerns.
Good evening. Chief Executive Carrie Lam has released a video on social media reviewing her administration's work over the past year. She promised to look into ways to boost the city's land supply as soon as possible. This, as the chairman of the task force on land supply says, the government shouldn't be selective in implementing the expert panel's 8 proposed land options. Christy Leung reports.
亦都喺呢度祝願大家喺嚟緊嘅新一年。
Good luck, good health and good fortune for the year ahead. That's part of the New Year's greetings from Chief Executive Carrie Lam. Her description of 2018, bustling and fruitful. The CE led a delegation to Beijing for the 40th anniversary of the nation's reform and opening up. She also went north to attend the opening of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge and the local section of the high-speed rail link. Looking forward, Lam pledged to boost land supply for new homes and study the final report submitted by the Task Force on Land Supply, which puts forward 8 land supply options. Speaking on a radio show this morning, the group's chairman Stan Yu Wong agreed that the city's land shortfall is so serious that parts of the Fanling Golf Course should be used for public housing developments. He added that another proposed land supply option, building a 1,000-hectare man-made island east of Lantau, received much public support during the consultation period. Yet he stressed the government shouldn't confuse that with its Lantau Tomorrow vision, which is 700 hectares larger.
That has been noted in our report, but not necessarily influencing what we are writing in the report. And our report is truly reflecting the discussion as well as the choice of the community as a whole.
He added that if the government is to go ahead with its own plan, it has to explain to the public on the feasibility and cost effectiveness of the supersized artificial island. Christy Leung, TVB News.
Well, thousands of people started their new year with a protest to voice their concerns over the state of Hong Kong. Organisers say there were 5,500 participants, while the police put the number at around 3,200 at the rally's peak. Caleb Long has the story.
This is a protest in which everyone is free to join. That's according to the organizer, the Civil Human Rights Front. But when some pro-establishment protesters claimed they wanted to participate, they were turned down.
Do they support the causes of this demonstration? For example, we support to prosecute CY Leung, and we support the Secretary of Justice to step down, etc. As we know their history, they do not support the causes. So why are they here? Are they here to provoke our demonstrators today?
And this was how the New Year's first pro-democracy march kicked off at Causeway Bay this afternoon. Different protesters all had their own demands.
We want the Secretary of Department of Justice to step down because you know that the recent scandal and his treatment on the recent case for the UGL. We hope to show that we are well prepared for the long-term battle against the artificial island and at the same time to against on the political suppression and prosecution.
Some even called for Hong Kong independence. The march concluded with a rally at Central Government Office's East Wing forecourt. There was a scuffle between government security and pro-independence protesters as they were initially denied entry to the venue, but they were later allowed in. The government later responded with a statement which noted its respect for the public's right to express opinions. The pro-establishment camp also had their own protest. Around 30 of them marched from Causeway Bay to Wan Chai, where they protested against the violent behavior of pro-democracy lawmakers in the legislature. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Taiwan's leader says China must use peaceful means to resolve its differences with the island and respect its democratic values. In a New Year's address in Taipei, Tsai Ing-wen called on Beijing to recognize the existence of the Republic of China, referring to the island's formal name. She pointed out that both sides need a pragmatic understanding of the basic differences that exist between them in terms of values and political systems. Her hard-nosed rhetoric comes a year ahead of the 2020 presidential election. Tsai's pro-independence Democratic Progressive Party suffered stinging losses to the mainland-friendly Kuomintang in November's mayoral and local elections. Beijing has ramped up pressure on Tsai since she took office in 2016, cutting off dialogue, winning over the island's few remaining allies and forcing foreign airlines to list Taiwan as part of China. New Year's celebrations in Tokyo were tarnished after a minivan slammed into a group of pedestrians. The front end of this vehicle was smashed in after it was driven into a group of New Year's revelers in a busy tourist area. 8 people were hurt in the attack and 1 person is in critical condition. Police arrested the 21-year-old driver of the vehicle, and investigators say the suspect told them he was carrying out a terrorist attack and was acting in retaliation against executions. Japanese media have reported Kazuhiro Kusakabe linked his attack to the July execution of 13 members of the Om Supreme Truth cult. That group was responsible for a 1995 sarin gas attack on the Tokyo subway.
Violence in the UK on New Year's as well. Counter-terrorism officers in England are investigating a stabbing at a Manchester train station on New Year's Eve. 3 people were injured, including a police officer. The station was closed for several hours after the incident. A man and a woman in their 50s suffered serious but not life-threatening injuries. The injured officer was released from hospital after suffering a stab wound to his shoulder. 1 man was taken into custody for questioning on suspicion of attempted murder. A witness said the attacker had a large knife. The Observer also claimed the suspect linked his actions to bombings in other countries. Britain is currently on its 2nd highest threat level after 4 major attacks over the year. Staying in the United States, and a week and a half into a partial US government shutdown, House Democrats released their plan to reopen the government without approving money for President Trump's border wall. Democrats in the House unveiled 2 bills on Monday to fund shuttered government agencies and put hundreds of thousands of federal workers back on the job. They plan to pass them as soon as the new Congress convenes on Thursday, one of the first acts after Democrats take control. Trump told Fox News in an interview yesterday that he was ready, willing and able to negotiate.
US Defense Secretary Jim Mattis gave his farewell message to the armed forces, telling them to keep the faith in their country and stand firm alongside America's allies. Mattis resigned over policy differences with President Donald Trump. Mattis, who had been seen as a stabilizing factor in US defense policy, is due to transfer authority to his deputy, Patrick Shanahan. Mattis, a retired Marine general who has often shied from the spotlight, did not have any sort of departure ceremony when he left the Pentagon, leaving his farewell memo as his final public remarks as defense chief. Historically, departing secretaries have had a major ceremony.
Russia's State Security Service has detained an American citizen suspected of spying in Moscow. Under Russian law, espionage carries penalties of between 10 and 20 years in prison. Moscow-based TASS news agency named the man as Paul Whelan. The US State Department said it was notified by Moscow and expects the Russian government to provide consular access to see Whelan.
And still ahead tonight, a look at New Year's celebrations around the world. Fee hikes that will take effect during the new year. And the annual New Year's Day swimming race in the South District.
做每件事都有代價，你聽咗幾多嘢，就肯定要還返更多。 吸食可卡因同冰毒，呢一刻好嗨，以為減到壓，話咁快就乜都冇晒，剔到上癮，冇咗人生，值得咩？打186186，發短信去 WhatsApp、微信98186，企硬唔剔嘢。
A warm welcome back to TVB News. Hong Kongers were living it up last night as the city welcomed the new year in style with fireworks and light shows. Jeff Tang recaps the celebrations all around the world.
As one of the last major cities on earth to ring in the new year, New York always puts on a spectacular show. Even the drenching rain couldn't dampen the spirits of partygoers as Auld Lang Syne rang throughout Midtown Manhattan following the traditional crystal ball drop at Times Square. Over to the cradle of Western civilization, the ancient citadel at the Athenian Acropolis provided the backdrop for a fireworks display to welcome 2019. Meanwhile, at the Eternal City, Italians put the budget fiasco behind them as they greeted the new year with fireworks and a live concert outside the mighty Colosseum. Germans were treated to a visual feast in the capital Berlin with fireworks and a spectacular light show above the iconic Brandenburg Gate. The Yellow Vest movement seemed a distant memory in Paris as the French welcomed 2019 in style with fireworks and a light show at the Arc de Triomphe. Parisians and tourists filled the iconic Champs-Élysées, where just weeks ago it was littered with burning vehicles as thousands of angry protesters clashed with police. In merry old London, the Big Ben chimed in the new year, while the London Eye served as the centrepiece of a pyrotechnic extravaganza on the south bank of the Thames. With much uncertainty still surrounding Brexit, London Mayor Sadiq Khan said the fireworks would pay tribute to Britain's close relationship with Europe. Closer to home, the Olympic Park in Beijing hosted live concerts for tens of thousands of partygoers to celebrate the arrival of the new year. Here in Hong Kong, Victoria Harbour was already lit up by fireworks even before the countdown had finished. But that didn't stop people from having a great time.
It's time to get strategic on how you spend this year, particularly after a number of companies raised their charges today. And here are some money-saving tips to reduce transport fees.
Next time you take the MTR, don't be surprised to see higher fares. Today is the last day for a 3% rebate on many MTR lines for passengers using the Octopus card. If you're a fan of the MTR City Saver, best buy it now. Otherwise, pay $10 more given adjusted fees apply from tomorrow. That's when 6 other MTR passes will also become more expensive. Here's another way to reduce your burden through the government's public transport fare subsidy scheme. Once a commuter has spent $400 on public transport using the same Octopus card, anything above that is entitled to a 25% subsidy, subject to $300 a month. If you prefer the comfort of a private car, take note. Tai Lam tunnel tolls have gone up by 8 to 10%. Private cars and taxis now have to pay $48, light goods vehicles $49, and a $5 hike for medium and heavy goods vehicles. Leaving your car at one of 157 car parks under the Housing Authority also means having to pay extra. Hourly rates for private cars are now $1 more and an additional $5 for a day pass. Even at home, higher electricity fees for Hong Kong electric customers. Residents of Hong Kong Island and Lamma Island are hit with a 6.8% tariff increase, with each unit of electricity costing the clients 120.1 cents. Some good news for air travellers though. Some local airlines have lowered their fuel surcharges by up to 10%.
Well, the city welcomed its first babies as the new year was rung in. There was no hiding of excitement as Mrs. Tsai's due date is about 2 weeks later. Their 2.84 kilogram baby girl was born at Pamela Yude Nethersole Eastern Hospital at 17 minutes past midnight. Her arrival also means 5 generations of the family under one roof. The baby is called Haley, meaning new hopes, the father said. 3 other babies were also born in various hospitals shortly after midnight.
The chilly weather has hardly put people off from participating in the annual New Year's Day swimming race. In batches, some 2,300 swimmers raced from Middle Bay to Repulse Bay this morning. The youngest participant is just 6 years old. The Chinese god of wealth gave out rat packets at the finish point, and the oldest swimmer, aged 84, has taken part in the event for 40 consecutive years. He will be retiring from the race after today. From all of us here,